Does anyone actually like old time rock and roll? The Bob Seger song? Like, I feel like I hear it a lot, but like, does anyone like that? Anyway, this video is about Yeat. Yeat, whose full name is Noah Oliver Yeat, has been one of the biggest rappers of the past decade so far. He first gained attention off this style of heavily distorted trap music called Rage. Playboy Cardi's Whole Lotta Red was like the forefather to that sound. I don't really like that album, but it is where it comes from. The first song I ever heard from him was a song off of his 4L mixtape at the beginning of 2021 called Sorry About That. Sorry About That. And it was just kind of annoying. Uh, I thought it was funny that he repeated "Sorry about that." I didn't like the Columbine bar that he put in there. Which why does every rapper need a Columbine bar? You ever notice that there's like a ton of Columbine bars. I don't. I feel like we're good. Anyway, his first album was later on that year, Up to Me. I didn't listen to that album at the time, but I came back to it like a little while ago. What I heard, I actually enjoyed quite a bit. It had this kind of like really rough sound to it that was like, it was entirely dumb fun, entirely hype. There was no depth behind it. You couldn't even understand what he was saying. I've recommended this album to people before who want to get into trap music but are worried about misogyny and that sort of thing. Because if he is being misogynistic, which he probably is, I don't know. Granted, it's bloated. Every Yeat album is bloated, but I have a playlist of the album that just trims it down to the best 13 songs, a clean 32 minutes. It's great. It also helps that Yeat is just really funny. Like how on Get Busy he says, "This song already turned me as a bell." Bong! And then the bell rings like it hasn't rung in like 1700 years. It's like an ancient device. It's awesome. It's great. Also, I love saying Twizzy. I love going up to random people and just being like, "What's up, my Twizzy? I hear we're going to ride the Tonka today." Even though I ended up enjoying Up to Me later on, and I did hear his Afterlife project in 2023, and I thought it had some cool ideas, I was not really expecting much from Yeat. I kind of figured he would end up like Lil Pump, which is to say, one mixtape or one album in his case that people enjoy and has its moments, but you don't need to listen to much after that. I mean, it's not like this guy has a masterpiece in him. I mean, there's no way this guy's making something truly great, right? In 2024, Yeat released the album 2093. And I am not joking here. I'm not being funny. I don't think this album is like just like good in the sense of it being dumb fun. This album is great. This album is one of my favorites of this decade so far. The first thing you notice about 2093 is the instrumentals. Most of Yeat's instrumentals in the past have fit into the Rage meta, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think Up to Me, as I said, is a pretty damn good album. There was some differentiation on his Afterlife project, but still most of it felt about the same because he was working with the same producers. 2093 does not sound like he was working with the same producers or any human for that matter. These are alien type beats. A good example of this is pretty evident in the second track on the album, Power Trip, which starts off as just kind of like this kind of like woozy, chill instrumental. And then it like switches into this much more hype, albeit kind of just bizarre trap instrumental. And then on the outro, he for some reason gets in a fuzzed out guitar solo and gets Childish Gambino to do the backing vocals. Childish Gambino needs to do more backing vocals. I have a lot of problems with the guy's music. I think he is constantly overhyping things and then not delivering. But damn, his voice is good. The song Breathe is probably one of my favorite songs of the decade. It has this dance beat that sounds like a futuristic hell world dance club. It also features him just yelling, "Breathe, breathe, breathe," as part of the instrumental. One of my favorite things to do actually is to annoy my girlfriend by whenever she goes, "Hold on, I need to go take a breath," I just tell them, "Breathe, breathe, breathe." They hate it so much. It's great. Shade also is probably the weirdest beat I have ever heard a mainstream rapper rap over. It is like this industrial type beat that has two different switch ups that are like the drum rhythms on this song are bizarre in the best possible way. Like, I do not know how he got away with it. The thing I really love about 2093, though, honestly, is the lyrics. So many Rage albums, including from Yeat, go for a vibe I would call evil hamburger type vibe. I think this is in part to do with Playboy Cardi's mysterious vampire shtick, which is supposed to look really ominous, but just looks so goofy. I don't how is he still here? On paper, 2093 is not super different from this, albeit with more of a sci-fi angle. Yeat basically plays the role of a zillionaire CEO who is willing to crush anybody and has power over the entire earth. What makes these songs different is that there's a full acknowledgement that he is miserable. The instrumentals on these songs add a lot to this vibe. Like Psycho CEO and Nothing Changed, for example, could be seen as a little bit of just like an over-the-top brag rap songs, but the instrumentals just being these dark, ominous, loud beats makes it kind of just change the whole context. It becomes like less braggadocious and more desperate, if that makes any sense. I don't know. I'm doing so many jump cuts and takes here. Please just don't judge me. And it starts to become very clear throughout the album that this psycho CEO, billionaire, money guy that he's coming up with is not actually who he thinks he is, and rather it's a manic representation of himself while on drugs. In one case, literally, actually, I love, in my personal opinion, is literally him playing the personification of drugs. There's the line, I know you trying to cry, so here's a shoulder. I know you trying to die, so here's a boulder. Basically acknowledging that the drugs he is on are both what made him and also what will probably kill him. Weirdly dark for an album of this type. Another song like this is You Should Know, which kind of has him just rejecting all help from every single person that's offering. It's almost like institutionalized. That one verse on Institutionalized where the guy's like, I'll figure it out myself. Don't worry. I'll figure it out. That verse, except it's Yeat now doing that. So take that for what you will. And I love the way he goes about talking about how he feels indestructible because the amount of money he made makes him feel more than what a person is. It's such a weirdly interesting, like, discussion on fame for an album like this, for an artist like this. Even though he goes really back and forth throughout this album in terms of like what mood he is in, the last two songs of this album almost feel like he's coming down from all of these drugs. If We Being Real, for example, which has this great beat, it's basically him just going like, yeah, maybe these drugs are destroying me, and maybe I'm actually really lonely and sad. And then 1093 is basically him being like, okay, I need to cut off all the people who are hurting me right now, and all the people who are only with me because I am like famous and have money, and I need to maybe just step away from the drugs. And I like that the song is called 1093 because it almost feels like it's him taking a step back so that he can take two forward. It's a really, really good way to end the album. And it also helps that the instrumental on this is just beautifully psychedelic. I'm not going to say this album is perfect by any means. There's a lot of clunky lyricism on here, like how on Bought the Earth, which is like this ballad of all things, like it's a psychedelic trap ballad, which works way better than you'd think. I have an acoustic slowcore cover of this on SoundCloud. But a lyric I cut out from that song is you want me to tuck you in bed, read your books all night. What do you mean, Yeat? I just got my library card. You promised we were reading all the places you go. What the hell? There's also Stand on it, where Yeat says, we some big mutts, big doggies. And I'd oftentimes say big mutts, big doggies. Also, it has Future deciding, okay, I'm doing my verse on a $1 walkie-talkie I found at the old Woolworths that was shut down in 1993. It's kind of a shame, actually, too, because Future, I agree with what Andre 3000 said, is the least inspiring rapper of all time in his lyrical content. He is so egotistical that I feel like his vibe would have worked really well. I also think Lil Wayne was kind of underwhelming on lifestyle, but Lil Wayne's underwhelming on everything nowadays. But regardless of its flaws, I absolutely love this album. It has some of the weirdest production I've heard on any mainstream rap album, and it genuinely acts as a good critique of the egoism and manic attitude that you can get when you are extremely famous, extremely drug addicted, and also like 20. Naturally, his fans didn't like it. Okay, I'm exaggerating a bit. It wasn't like a Saint Anger level bomb with his fan base. You can find a lot of Yeat fans who were there since like 2021 who thinks it's his best album. But there was also a shocking amount of people who really, really didn't like it. Not just like thought it was mid or something, like they disliked it outright. Now, this is not necessarily bad. Fan bases are going to be split on certain albums, and I mean, honestly, if a fan base is willing to critique an artist, that's a good thing, right? It's good that they're not a hive mind. I would like to read you a real post that is on the Yeat subreddit. 2093 is terrible. For me, I think he is trying too hard. The lyrics are way too try hard. We just want simple bars that flow with the beat. The tone to the lyrics is just too monotone. He's trying to be a poet with his lyrics. Just rap about perkies and money with a wild upbeat beat. That's what we're here for. The production is just the same monotone on every song. I don't think this person knows what mono means. It's trying to be overly creative. Overly creative. We just want beats that we can rage to or be hella chill to. The beats are trying to be the main character, and it's just not hitting right. Number 3. His aura is gone. He's taking the wrong direction in revealing his face more and trying to be a lyrical genius. Hollywood and the fame is changing him. Did he quit Perky's or something? Or is everyone around him telling him he's actually a lyrical genius and he's running away with it? He's just getting away from what made him popular to begin with, and it's hard to see. To the OG fans, guess we will have to keep listening to our leak playlists. The future's not looking bright. Okay, to be fair there, a lot of the comments under that video were people disagreeing with the take. But this is also just a surprisingly common thing that I've seen. If you go under the YouTube comments of like any of these songs, it is not that hard to find people being like, this is too much. People were genuinely mad at the guy for trying to branch out for some reason. And according to his manager, that like kind of got to him. So that same year, he released an album called Lifestyle. And this album was much more well liked by this section of the fan base because it was really hype. It was really like looped trap beats, and it's not good at all. It is his worst album by far. So when I say looped beats, I mean looped beats. Forget all the beat switches from 2093. The beats on this album basically run in a circle until the beat is over, and now it's time for the next beat to run in a circle. And good news, guy on Reddit, Yeat is back to rapping about the Perkies. It's mind-blowingly boring, and it feels really sad after all the self-improvement he seemed to be going with being sober on 2093, but at least he isn't being too creative. I don't like this album very much, but the people who didn't like 2093 did, for the most part. It was Yeat getting back into the box that he built for himself, not moving at all, and just doing the thing that makes them happy. Okay, I don't really know what I was going for at the beginning of this video. I just started writing, and then I kept writing. I guess if I had to think of a point, it would be that this is a really interesting case of social media and stan culture actively contributing to artistic degradation. Art getting worse. It's really easy for a lot of stans to see artists, particularly rage rappers, as utilities. They are there to get the crowd hyped up and then shut up and not really do much else. For some artists, this probably makes sense. I don't want to hear Playboi Carti get emotional and talk about why he did the stuff he did, where didn't he like he beat someone, I think. I don't need Playboi Carti's if I did it. However, it is really interesting to see this now play out to where if an artist, particularly an artist who is well known as just kind of being ignorant and just dumb fun, tries to change up their sound, their fans actively reject it, as they see it almost as like a rejection of themselves. They've projected themselves for so long onto this guy that now that he's doing something different, they're like, no, what about all the Perkies I took? I didn't start sipping that drank for nothing, did I? So when Yeat tries to be something more than just the incomprehensibly drugged out guy over rage beats, his fans, at least a lot of them, don't like it. And they kind of bring him back to where he was before. He's back on drugs now, from everything I've read. And I'm not going to say that his fans did that. He's a grown man. He makes his own decisions. But at the same time, I feel like if my first album about sobriety was rejected that hard by a core fan base of mine, I feel like that wouldn't help. Maybe Yeat will get back to experimenting in his music. I actually liked one of his more recent singles, but as of now, he has to work within the constraints of what is expected of his fan base and also of the music industry. In some sense, he's kind of a victim of capitalism. Okay, bye!